Kasey Wong is an apartment building investor. He's been in the game a long time. And on this episode, we talked about recent challenges that he's had in the last couple of years. One of the biggest mistakes that he made, which actually involved picking the wrong partner on a project. We also talked about the market in general, immigration numbers, where things are headed, in his opinion. We talked a little bit about some of his recent projects. So I think if you guys are interested in commercial multifamily, he is very experienced in that space. He has multiple 20 plus unit buildings. I think there's a lot to learn just from speaking to him. There's also some funny stories and some actually kind of scary stories that he's dealt with when it comes to tenants. So I hope you guys will enjoy the episode. Make sure to go to www.welloff.ca/report to download some pretty cool freebies that we are offering to anyone. So check that out. And then also, if you want to connect with me, you can also book a call on the website, welloff.ca. And then finally, if you can just leave us a 5-star review, that would be greatly appreciated so we can get the word out there to your friends, to your family, and make sure that people are getting more informed about real estate investing, specifically the commercial multifamily space. So there you go. Enjoy the episode. I'm here with probably my favorite guest, Kasey Wong, because I think you've been on the show more than anybody, but I love always asking you to come on because you're so knowledgeable and you're always sharing good things. And I feel like I get to pick your brain all the time, which is awesome. But what's new with you? What's going on?
Same old. We were just talking before that I guess business shouldn't always change that much. The fundamentals are always your fundamentals, and there could be some noise in the market. We'll talk about interest rates, inflation, and how that affects immigration. Really, how does that affect your core business? But your core business in itself, if it's multifamily res, it shouldn't really change that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for those that maybe are listening to you for the first time, it's you're focused on Ontario. You're not like, as far as I know, you're not in other markets, right?
No, we looked at other markets as well. So let me do a quick little snapshot. So, a lot of people don't know me now because I think there was this viral YouTube thing that went on because I was like, whatever. I was just so blunt, right? I was like, whatever. I was like, I'll talk, right? And then after which, honestly, your social media, it could balloon, it could catch like really, really fast, like a big fire, and boom, it dies really, really quick as well. But okay, so a little snapshot of me. I think I mentioned this before in your other podcast. I grew up here. I'm very white inside, right? So the Chinese people call me a banana, right? So I'm yellow on the outside and white on the inside. Yeah. What they say? Yeah, yellow on the outside, white on the inside. So I'm like a banana.
That's what Chinese people say to you.
Yeah, you're like a banana, right? And then honestly, a lot of my sort of my Caribbean friends, or they'll say that they're coconuts, right? Because they're brown on the outside. And so you've probably heard of that, right?
No, I haven't heard of either of those terms.
So either you're banana or coconut, because I grew up in the hood in Malvern, right? In Scarborough. Yep. But grew up average family. My father was a draftsman, engineer. My mother was a technician for a tech company called Leach Technologies. And honestly, a very, normal family. Grew up in Scarborough, and then, went to high school there, and then university. Fell into the normal grind of working. So, whatever. I worked at a bank, TD Bank, TD Asset Management, CIBC Asset Management, a pension consulting company, and so on and so forth. You do the 9-to-5 grind, you kind of find yourself, right? Everybody sort of find themselves, right? What do they want to be when they grow up, right? And then I fell into real estate. Bought a property, or actually before that, read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everybody knows about that. It's not really anything technical. You don't really learn that much. It's more of, hey, let's do this mind shift change of getting assets under your belt, right? Just buying that and get cash flowing, things like that. But I'm not a go-getter. I don't do things like that. I'm more mainstream. But then my wife read it and she goes, so you read this a year ago, but you didn't tell me about it. Yes, I know, because I'm not like that. I'm more into operations, right? So you give me something, I'll do it, right? But I'm not spearheading. I don't lead the trail. I don't. That's not my thing, right? But I know how to run a property, so I liked it, and then I started working for property management companies alongside of owning properties. So we bought my first triplex in downtown Toronto, did some four townhouses in Barrie. I still have one there. And then London houses, and I divested most of those and just did multifamily res. And that's where I think this conversation can go where it's multifamily, it's apartment buildings that really generates that wealth. Everybody likes, getting in the right now the talk is additional dwelling units, ADU, or the garden suites and whatever. But when it comes down to it, you have to take a look at the numbers if it really works out. So I skewed my business. I really put in a lot of my emphasis on 30 to 40 unit buildings. So that we concentrate on 30 to about 80 unit buildings in the core of Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge. And we did other stuff. We did other projects. Some of them went sideways. Some of them stayed on track, and we can talk about that as well. But that's my whole little snapshot in whatever, 4 minutes or 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, we've talked about like on past episodes about your previous projects, like some of your first ones, and I know you've had some failures in Hamilton. Like one of your first projects didn't go very well, and it wasn't what you thought and whatever. But let's talk a little bit more of your recent stuff. So obviously, so right now it's October 2024. We've had like a bit of a struggle in the market and in real estate for the last 2 years, and just the economy in general for the last 2 years has struggled. What struggles have you come across as somebody who owns apartment buildings and has partners that have expectations and stuff like that?
Well, that was a long question.
Let's just focus on the struggles from the last.
The struggles. Okay, the struggles. I've had so many struggles. Like you wouldn't believe how many struggles that like you can hear all the good stuff from people, but if you really want to know what sort of makes them, it's really the struggles. I lost money in Hamilton. So I'll go back to Hamilton, 821, 827, 959 Main Street, near Main and Gage. I lost a shitload of money. I lost like 500,000. Back then it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now it's like not a lot. 500,000. 500,000 is like you buy for you young folks like George, and like you buy a fancy car, you're 2-3 cars and you're done, right? So, like honestly, when it comes down to it, what happened in Hamilton? I bought in a rough neighborhood. Tenants weren't paying. I had a steam boiler there. Structurally, or the building needed a lot of work, right? And I didn't know what I was getting into. So going back is that I paid about my investors. I actually took out my money from my RSPs and tried to keep it afloat. Paid them back. It was done. I was like, you know what? I don't want to ever do that again, right? Honestly, some of the investors, they're not even appreciative, right? So you know what? It's like I'd rather not. So that's another story. Is that I'd rather do it myself, but we can get into that as well. So going back to the problems, lost money in Hamilton. Some of these projects right now is development. I've lost money as well, right? It's not like everything that I touch turns to gold. No, like when you really ask people what really happened or whatever, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens that people don't see. And if you've been in this industry or in this business for a while, you will hit roadblocks. You will hit like issues, problems, things like that. Tenant issues to investors to the market, and it's just coming at you everywhere.
Which one is the worst issue to deal with in your opinion? What's the toughest?
It's not the toughest. It's really it's really how you can manage it, right? So, if it's your first time, it's going to like really eat you up, right? You're gonna lose sleep over it. I did, right? I think about it at night. It's like, even my first investment properties in Barrie, I had 4 properties I was closing on probably a week out, and I was like, I couldn't even sleep, right? It was a $125, right? 125,000 for it's on Burns Circle. I was like, damn, it's that time. It was 2004 or 5, 20 years ago. I was like, I lost sleep over it. So the more you do, the easier it gets, right? The first time riding a bike, it's gonna be hard. You're gonna fall. You don't know how to. You're looking down on your tires, making sure it's straight, but you got to peg yourself really far and then coast, right? And make sure that your goal is far enough that you know where you're setting it at, right? Like I tell my kids when she was learning how to ride, it's like, you can't look at your steering wheel, right? You got to look out.
Yeah,
far,
exactly.
and you got to steer properly, and you got to know where you're going, right? Same thing with real estate. You have to have a right direction, and then you have to do the little things properly. But what is this 20 years out? Like, what's your 1 kilometer if you're going to start riding, right? What are you pegging yourself on, right? So when it comes down to it, like, your first problems are going to be the hardest. Your 10th problem with the same thing is going to be easy, right?
Yeah. But I mean, if we go back to if we look at the last 2 years, so I'm sure there's been cash calls well, I mean, I'm assuming there's been some cash calls for certain projects. Maybe there were times when you had projected to refinance a property for X dollars, but then the rate shot up, so now you're getting so much less. Have you dealt with those kinds of situations recently, and how did you manage those?
So yeah, we had some development plays right in the last 3 or 4 years, and it didn't pan out because the market tanked, and we had to carry it. I couldn't go back to my limited partners and ask them for more money, so I took money out even from my own properties. It's tough because development is not my play, right? And some people said that, you know what, you can make a lot of money really quick. I'm going back to my fundamentals. It's just multifamily res, right? So your land development is tough, and you need a lot of money. And when people say that, oh, it's, you know, you can make a lot of money or whatever, you know what, take it. You can have it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Right. I just want that cash flow. I want the $20,000 a month per, like, you know, my student housing, it's like 15, 20,000. Like, that's cool. That's comfortable. Have a couple of those. They're amazing. Right. But your land development, it just sucks you up. Right. So that's a learning lesson. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do it.
Can you tell us a little bit about that land development project that you were working on?
Yeah, it was like, well, this guy Majid, who was my development manager, I don't know if I should say this name, but I'll say it. I don't give a shit. So this guy Majid Takavoli is like, this guy's a real like jackass, right? Like he, can I say that, George?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can say whatever you want.
Exactly. Nobody's don't beep that out. But this guy tries to like, you know, try to sue you or do this and like put all this stuff on, but he has no teeth on this, right? And I was like, you know what? Like we did things that like we can make sure that he's out, right? So that's another whatever. It's like he didn't put any money in. We put in all the money, and this guy wants to try to swindle us, right? So yeah, it's like you got to be very cautious of who you partner with.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever you do, there's other, this is just a podcast, but if like you really want to learn, there's more stuff to it that I don't want to put on air, right? That you can do to sort of insulate your assets. Right. So yeah, these people will try to like steal things. So this guy Majid is like, he's a real con artist, right? So I thought he was going to be legit and all that. And no, he's not, right? But he's, like.
Okay, so that was like the main thing. You just picked the wrong partner.
Oh, yeah.
And it led to a lot of problems for you with your development, right?
Yeah.
But if you had the right partner, then maybe the situation would have been a little bit different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a little unfortunate that you had the wrong partner. Plus the market turned, so you had those two challenges at the same time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's going to hit you in different directions. Like it's not going to be. So when you talk about like real estate investing, it could be apartment buildings. You're dealing with the tenants, contractors, LTB, money, like your partners, how much money you have. Like it's everything. It's not just one thing that you're dealing with. So it sounds so easy when you get all those gurus out there and thinking like the people. I went to this place just on the weekend. What's this thing called? Keyspire, right?
Oh, I was there too. I didn't see
you there.
Yeah.
I just walked around. What's that?
I just went on Saturday.
I went on Saturday too. I was like, I was there and just walking around. It's nice. Like I like to mingle, right? But you get all these gurus out there and like, oh, I met this person who's like in another thing, multifamily is like she retired in 2 years. This person is doing rent to owns and. From this other thing called like Trust Yourself or something, or Trust Your Talents or something. Like there's from Keyspire to Trust Yourself to Wealth Genius to like there's some legit people there.
Yeah.
But then there's people that you have to like sort of filter.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And some people talk honestly a good story, and you kind of wonder 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Like you can't retire in 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And just be mindful of what they're saying, right? Because sometimes it's just all fluff.
See, the thing is, I thought about this because, I hear these stories and I feel like I can right away tell when somebody's not legit.
Yeah.
Just like everything they're saying doesn't make sense, right? But then I think to myself, who would fall into this trap? And then I think, well, if I went to a conference that I know nothing about, let's say like I went to, I don't know, Bitcoin conference.
Right.
I don't know anything about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Then maybe I would fall into somebody's trap because I don't know anything about it, right? So I think that's kind of who they target, right? The people who are a little bit clueless with real estate investing.
Yeah. So they're trying to look for that person that's the rookie or just starting out, and they'll try to get money from you or whatever, right? Like you're low hanging fruit in a way, and you're not skilled. You don't know what you're doing, and you get trapped into it. I'm not saying that these groups are bad in any way. I'm just saying that you just have to be cautious, right? So even for me, it's like if I went into land development, I wasn't cautious enough, right? I know my game, right? I know I can hit my singles. Swinging for the fences is not my thing.
What was attractive about land development for you that made you want to go into it?
So it's not really me, like in a way that, like my wife was sold into it, and this guy Majid, is a smooth talker. And there's some people like saying that land development, you can quickly make money or develop. And it's like, no, you can't, right? It's a tough grind, and you don't make any money, right? Developers don't make any money. Okay.
Their margins are very thin.
Margins are super thin.
Yeah.
Right. I'd rather hold like a 30, 40, 50 unit building, right? And just cash flow it. Right. So the margins are thin. The risks are high. What the heck am I doing in here? Right. So go back to my fundamentals. Right. But you have to try it first. Right. You say, this bike looks amazing. Right. It's like, it's whatever. When you're a kid, it's a 12-speed or whatever. You can't even reach the pedals.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm comfortable with my tricycle, right? With my multifamily, I'm comfortable with my tricycle. I stick with it.
Yeah.
Stick with what you know. Okay. And just don't be skewed or don't fall into the trap of the shiny, bright stuff. Okay. Because sometimes it's not very shiny when you start picking it up.
Yeah. Makes sense. And there is obviously money to be made in land development, but there's experts that do that, and that's all they focus on. And I think a lot of the money in land development is more like rezoning properties or adding density or whatever, like stuff like that, right? Okay, so in terms of your existing portfolio, because I don't think you've really purchased anything in the last year or so, right? From my understanding.
Yeah.
Have you had to make any major adjustments at all, or is everything already stabilized with your existing portfolio?
It's pretty stabilized for the existing. So most of my stuff that we purchased was at least 6 or 7 years ago. Nothing really changed.
Yeah.
Fundamental markets. Some of we were talking prior is like my student housing. It was on that YouTube channel, and it was like 27 gross rent. It's gone up to 40,000 gross rent. It's a stable market. Okay. So we didn't purchase anything in the last 2 or 3 years in terms of multifamily. Got rid of the land development stuff. Still working on a couple. But when it comes down to it, I preach this a lot. The core fundamental of multifamily will make you money, will make you wealthy. You just have to be patient. So for most of you people out there, you're not patient, right? You don't want to wait for 5 or 10 years. You want it now. You want it yesterday, right? You think that you can jack the rents up and pay people out, pay tenants out. But that's what I'm saying is cash for keys or things like that. I've never really done that. I may have to if we buy another property, but just be very patient. It's a long-term game. And if you have that time frame of that 5 or 10 years, you do really well. Yeah.
With your multifamily, everything was already stable. Have you had any challenges come up with refinancing lately because the rates went up? Like, were you counting on refinancing anything and then you kind of got stuck, or it was okay?
No, we actually refinanced before COVID. So
I remember that. We talked about that on the last one.
Yeah.
And the rates you got were amazing.
The rates were amazing. And then we sold, right? We sold it with the assumable mortgages, right? So their home run for these new buyers. So nothing really wrong with the interest rates right now. Like when we sort of refi prior to COVID, so that 3-4 years ish. So it was good, and now the rates are coming down again. So it will come down. Just that our economy is slowing down. GDP growth is slowing. Inflation has come down to a manageable 2%. So the government of Canada will, ease on the monetary policy. Nothing to the fact like it's 2% ish. So you'll see rates come down, which is good for multifamily. The only thing is that when you buy anything, when you get into the market, it's never going to be perfect, right? You have something that's off. And what I mean by this is that it could be prices that was high prior to COVID, with interest rates low, and then you have them not cash flowing, right? Because your prices are high. Now prices are coming down, interest rates are coming down. It seems like it's great, but then your rents are softening now, right? Then now your immigration is slowing down, so you're not getting a lot of the Indian. The federal government was offering a lot of incentives for Indian students to come. We had a sort of surge of tenants from India.
This is in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Kitchener-Waterloo, near Conestoga College. It was good and bad, but that's another episode we can do about tenant issues and things like that. Or you can talk about it now, whatever you want, George. But you never have that perfect thing where everything lines up. Your ducks will never be lined up. So pick your poison, right? So right now it's market is softened, right? Your construction cost is getting high, right? Your carrying cost is a little bit lower. So, but the market itself might be better for buying because now people might be offloading, right? So it depends on the season of what you want to get into, right?
Are you in a buying state right now? Or, I mean, everybody's different, but like, are you in a situation where you're looking for opportunities?
You're always kind of looking-ish, right? There's never a point where like everything is like offline, you're not going to be buying. But the thing is that there's a deal of the century. We talk about it at home like often. It's like there's a deal of the century every week. So why be a motivated buyer? Right? You don't have to be motivated. Every week there's something new.
Yeah.
Every week there's going to be, oh my goodness, this is like the special of the century, right? No, it's not. It's a special of this week, and then next week there'll be another one, right? It's like,
yeah. I mean, it's always like you said, there's always those deals, and then sometimes if things line up and you're in a position where you're ready to go, everything works out the way it should, right?
Yeah, it should never be the point where you're trying to push something. If when I hear from like agents or whatever, it's like, oh my goodness, we'll never see these prices again. Yo, dude, just chill, man. Like it's gonna be it'll happen again next week, right? Like you get those agents or those people saying these prices are absurdly low, and it's like you can't miss this. Like lock it in, right? No conditions, right? And no, dude, like never do that.
Right.
Never put in an offer with no conditions and all that, and you can't do your due diligence. People will do that all the time. It's like, it's like, this is a deal of the century. You'll never,
Are you talking about apartment buildings or?
Apartment buildings. It could be, yeah. Or even houses. Like we don't do houses, but like some people say, oh my goodness, you're 20,000 below market. It's like, you'll never see this again. Yo, dude, I saw it again next week. I saw it last week. I saw it again 2 weeks from now. It's always going to happen. So don't be a motivated buyer.
You know what? I just saw a building in Welland go up for sale, I think like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And they listed it pretty low.
Yep.
They had, I think, like 7 offers on it and 5-day due diligence condition, which I think is crazy.
Crazy.
Like, how do you buy an apartment building within 5 days?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was surprised to see that was happening.
Yeah. Red flag right there. It's like, don't even like, why get yourself behind that 8 ball and say that, okay, well now I have 5 days to do everything.
Yeah.
Right? No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that to yourself. It's not worth the stress, right? So if you want, do a 60 days, okay? Do 90 days. Just do your due diligence. Say, here's my best offer. I can beat it for like whatever X amount of dollars, right? But I want my due diligence. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable, right? If you're going to push me and put me in that corner and say I have to do like in 5 days, like, dude, it's pass. I pass.
Yeah. I mean, that person may have willingly done that because there was competition, right? You never know.
Yeah.
But before recording, you were talking a little bit about I don't know if you want to touch on this, but buying out partners. Is that something that you've done recently? Like, did you have partners that came to you and said, I want out of this project, find a way to get me out?
Yeah. It depends on the project, right? So I'll talk about my 12 unit Kitchener.
Yeah.
There's two specific investors. There's a group of 5, and this is basically what 4 or 5 years ago when we refinanced it. We were going to sell it, but we couldn't sell it at our price. Like, we're pretty high at our price, and I go, I'll just buy these guys out, right? And these investors were, we gave them a good 28 or 32% return. It was like a 30% return each and every year for 5 years or 7 years. And they gave us a legal letter, right, saying that we didn't do things properly for this particular property, or for my Duke and Wellington property. And I was like, really? Right? And I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy you out. Because the bank wanted their date of birth or their driver's license, things like that. And they wouldn't give it to us. So we couldn't refinance it, and just causing us problems. I remember my wife was talking to me about this. Like, it was a friend, and then she brought in a dentist. Her name was Jennifer and Ivan.
Okay.
It's like Jenna, and I saw her at her kids. They went to the same school. I was like, I didn't even want to talk to her. It's like, she just pissed me off in a way. Like, I don't really deal with the investors.
Yeah.
I really don't get involved with that part. It's my
Right.
wife that really does the bulk of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, we gave a good return, right? And for whatever reason, they thought they can get higher, right? And it's like, it just really pissed me off. Like, this is like 3 or 4 years ago. So yes, paying off the investor, sometimes you have to.
How do you go about doing that? Like, let's say you've owned this property for a couple of years.
Yeah.
What's the first step if you are looking to pay out an investor? Are you ordering appraisals, like maybe 2 appraisals on the property and using the average of both?
Yeah. So we got an appraisal done from a reputable commercial appraiser, and then got the comps, like all that. We also put it on the market as well, and everything was in line. And then when we got the money from the refi, we just paid them out.
Okay, so you put it on the market. I'm just going to use random numbers. Let's say it was $3 million.
Yeah.
You listed it for $3 million. You got an appraisal, and the appraisal was the same. It said that the value is $3 million.
Yeah.
You couldn't sell it, so then you refinance it.
Yep.
Instead.
Yeah.
And you use the refi money to pay out the partner.
Yeah. So I didn't take any money out and just pay the investors back.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So we didn't pay out all the investors, just paid out the 2 problem ones. So we don't want to do that. Just that we almost couldn't even refinance it because they wouldn't give the date of birth and all that stuff. Right? It's just a simple matter. Right. But for whatever reason, like that's the reason why I want to get out of sort of the investors, like the LP and GP as well. I just want to own in my own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not deal with investors. So investors are good because you have to scale, but there's nothing wrong with just cash flowing it and not answering to anybody else but yourself.
Have you recently bought anyone out? Like, let's say in the last year?
No.
Okay. And is that going to be the plan moving forward? Like, as these buildings come up for renewal, maybe you'll look to do that?
It depends. Each building is going to be different.
Yeah.
So what we do is that usually we sell it and then pay everybody out, right? And just move on, right? So a lot of the investors, like, just always, like, it depends on the market, right? It depends on what you can sell, what you can get out of that building, right? And each investor is going to be different. Some will stay with you, some won't, right? Sometimes you give them the money back and then they don't want the money, right? They'll quickly say, hey, do it again, right? But it depends. Like, everybody's going to be different, and everybody like, it could be family and friends. It could be in a credit event. Like, everybody will treat you different.
Right.
Just because they're friends and family doesn't mean that they're going to stick with you and they're going to treat you well either. Like, I had some like issues with a family member, right? Like, investors. So it doesn't, just because they're family doesn't mean they're good investors.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping to pick your brain a little bit on any situations you may have come across lately, because I think a lot of people now are getting into a situation where maybe partners that they're working with are upset with the returns that they're getting now, or the values have come down of their properties, or the cash flow's down. So, they're like, hey, you're the reason this is happening or whatnot. And, how would you approach that situation if anyone is dealing with that?
get them to go with you on a daily on a daily run to your properties, right? Like open it up for your investors, right? And show them what you're doing, because they don't really know what you're doing. They think you're just sitting at home like watching TV or whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's tougher than it really is, because a lot of the times the operators like myself or other people, they're doing this and they're not getting paid for it, right? So you may get a little bit of the the management fees or the asset management fees or things like that, but it's not enough to live off of.
Right.
Because normally, let's say on a commercial building, you're earning 3 to 5%, right? When you're doing your sort of your pro forma or whatever, it's like you're making sure that the building can operate, can function properly, but you're not taking a huge amount on the management fee.
Are you saying you're earning 3 to 5% as a management fee?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Right. So like I still need money to put in the gas tank. I still gotta run my business and things like that. So for a partner, you don't want to squeeze them. So when you're doing your analysis, you have to put something for property management. If you're not outsourcing it, you're doing your own. You have to pay yourself, or if you're an investor, you got to pay that partner.
Right.
Right? How are they going to run the business if they're not making any money, right? Or if they're not putting bread on the table, how are they gonna eat, right?
Yeah.
So 3 to 5% on, let's say, on that gross rent of, let's say, 27,000 or 40,000, that 3 to 5%, calculate that out, give that to the manager, because they're worth it, right? So.
Yeah, we've talked about this too in the past. Like it all depends on how you've structured the deal. If you have no money into it, then you may not take a management fee. But if you're putting a bunch of cash into the deal, then maybe you want to structure it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I talked about that before. So a lot of people would say, like, you go to these Keyspire stuff and all that and anything, 50-50 and whatever, you're not putting any money in. Did we talk about these things before?
Probably. I don't know.
Okay. I don't even know. But like, you don't put any money in, okay? And you're starting out, but you want a 50-50. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like somebody's going to go in, hey, George, let's do a 50-50 on this 20-plex.
Yeah.
You put in all the money, George. You put in what? On a 20-plex, you're looking at 200,000. So it's like, what is it? $4 million. You put in 40% of that, so it's 1.6 million. You put down 1.6 million plus carrying costs, plus renovation costs and things like that. It's $2 million. Are you comfortable with that? Working with some Joe Blow who doesn't put any money and has only done like a duplex or something like that?
That's definitely not
Exactly.
in that situation. If the person's done 50 of these deals, then that's
go.
another situation. Yeah.
So if I was that Joe Blow guy, John Doe, whatever, he's giving me that deal. I say, hey, yo, okay, so let's do this. You have a principal resident. Let's put some money on that. Okay. Let's work it as 80-20. Okay. So I get the 80 because I put in all the money, that $2 million.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll work this deal right now. You get the upside of the 20%. Any kind of downside, you want to take 80% loss, and I take the 20% loss as well. No, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
Let's negotiate. So if you're negotiating off the bat, like on a whim, are you comfortable with that, John Doe? Like some guy coming to whatever, and then I have a stake. Like you're gonna do the guarantor on, let's say, 500,000 on your principal resident. Okay, something goes wrong, your principal resident is on the line as well.
Yeah.
Right? I did this. I remember doing a promissory note. Some guy was gonna do a promissory note. I'd like to say his name, but I don't know if
just don't say it.
Don't say his name. Oh, okay. Don't say his name. So this guy,
for your own sake, don't say it. You've already said too many names.
I don't like. Okay, so this guy goes. He won $100,000. Is a promissory note. I go, promissory note.
He wants it from you.
Yeah, he wants it from me because this is good 8 to 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I go, okay, that's cool. I don't mind promissory note, but promissory note, like, what's collateral on this, right? There's no collateral. I go, really? Yo, dude, you can't do that, right? You've heard all these like promissory notes and all that.
Yep.
There's no collateral. You're joking me, right? And I said this to this guy. His name is Mike. I'll say it.
Yeah. Okay.
I won't even say his last name.
Yeah.
But he does renovations, right? And I was like, yo, dude, you don't do anything collateral. So going back to my story of this guy, John Doe, a 20 unit at 200,000 at 4 million, something you have to put a collateral. Okay. So you don't get into this game without putting any money in.
Yep.
Right. So I don't understand when you go all onto these like the Keyspires and the the wealth genius. Like nothing wrong with them. I'm sure that the people that set these things up are pretty cool.
Yep.
Right. But when you start selling and start making partnerships like that, you better back it up.
Well, I think those are more geared towards smaller properties, single family, duplex, triplex.
Yeah.
I don't think they usually do that with 20 unit buildings.
Yeah. But even a single family or duplex, you got to put some money in, or use your parents' home as collateral. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Oh, you don't have the money? Oh, that's fine. Your parents?
Yeah.
Your brother and sister that's willing to back you up because I don't trust you.
Yeah. And again, you're talking about that person that's like never done a deal before,
That's right.
Yeah. It's a little bit hard to get into that with
Yeah.
someone who's never done anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is that if you're willing to talk the talk, like you better back it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything? Okay. So you touched on immigration.
Yeah.
Lately. You have been reading, I guess, that immigration is going to decrease over the next little while.
Yeah, well, a lot of the student housing, like we had, some of our Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge properties had some student from India that went to Conestoga College, and it started off good, okay, and then the immigration is coming down. That's what they said. The enrollment's coming down, and they're capping that. So I'm actually hearing it from the people at Conestoga College as well, right? So it's fine and all, right? So now your rental pool is going to shrink, right? So your rents are going to come down. I can see the softening right now. So we're October 2nd today, 2024, and I'm going to say the rents has come down. I say next 2 or 3 years, the rents will soften. Your interest rates will come down. Your property value is still a bit low, but it'll start to pick up. This is a good time to look into multifamily, right? There's never going to be a perfect time, okay, where everything lines up. As I mentioned that before, nothing really lines up in a way that you get everything. You get low price at $100,000 per unit, interest rates at 1%, and your rental rates at $5,000.
Yeah.
Would that ever happen? No, it won't ever happen.
Not here. Maybe in some places in the world, but not here.
Yeah, probably not on Earth, but something like it will never be to the point where everything lines up perfectly. Something will give, okay. But going back, I kid you not, this is. Like I have a lot of Indian friends, right? But back in India or Pakistan or whatever they're coming from, I had a lot of these tenants had cockroaches and bed bugs, right? I was like, what is happening? She opened the door. I kid you not. There was a cockroach, just like several cockroaches on the wall, and I just looked at it, cockroaches, and I was like, and she just looked at it and I was like, and just looked at me again. I'm like.
So wait, this is in your apartment building?
Yeah.
This is your student rental in Waterloo?
No, not in Waterloo. This is in Kitchener.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is a townhouse complex that I purchased. And I kid you not, it was disgusting.
So were you renting out to like a big group of people that were living in one space? So they were renting the rooms out or whatever?
So
you had one lease, but they weren't each in a room, right?
They're all on the lease.
Yeah.
So essentially, there's a 3-bedroom town, 6 in total, because you're allowed 2 people per bedroom.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Nothing more, just the fire code. So they can't pack it all in. And sometimes they do, and you just don't know about it.
Right.
So they had 6 people. And I kid you not, it was crazy. And when I spoke to, there's another tenant in the same complex, and she works for Conestoga College. And George, I kid you not, they actually had a lesson or a course or something to that effect about just hygiene, right? And they said that this is a normal occurrence where we would have to teach these people about cleanliness, washing their hands, or cockroaches or things like that. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's our norm. Their norm is their norm,
right,
back home.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about this to the point where it's like, okay, well now I have to get up to speed of what's happening, and unfortunately, I didn't give back I did a deposit of a cleaning deposit. You're not supposed to in Ontario.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not letting you guys in until I get this cleaning deposit. And I dropped it, which that was my mistake. I used to charge, I think it was $500 or $800. One of them, I dropped it to $250 or $300. That's not even enough to clean, to get pest control there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was my learning mistake. Right? So get a deposit. I know you're not supposed to, but it's filthy, right? And I tell them about, hey, they carry E. coli. Is it E. coli or
what, the cockroaches?
Cockroaches, because
really?
they go into the sewer lines, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty dirty, right? So I was like, and she went, when I was talking to the attendant, right, it was a blank look on her face. She was like, whatever. Like, cockroaches are cockroaches. They're like ants. I'm like, no. It's like, no, they're not.
Right.
And it was like, what I did was I got Orkin there, and then I got diatomaceous earth, and I was like, powder everywhere. I was like, did you know about that stuff?
I've had to deal with cockroaches. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I got diatomaceous earth, and I was like, powder everywhere in the kitchen because they baited it as well. And sometimes you get borax and you get diatomaceous earth, and you just put it.
So you were hands on.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, I hate that stuff. I was like,
yeah.
So you get the one at Canadian Tires. It's like, now it's like $15. It used to be $9.99, but diatomaceous earth, and it's just a natural thing that dries up the insects, right? Sometimes they use borax as well, and then do you know what that stuff?
I've never used that. Like I've always asked pest control to come, and they do a treatment, then they come back like a week or two later, and do a second treatment, and then the tenants have to move all their stuff away from the walls. And they have to spray all the baseboards, and you take the plates off the electrical, like the receptacles. Sorry,
bed bugs or roaches?
For roaches too, because they have their nests like anywhere, like in any little crevice. I've done the backsplash, because that's always in the kitchen. It's always messy. You take out the plate there, and you can see a bunch of like roach eggs and stuff. Yeah, like all that stuff in it.
Yeah. So this is what I do is that, like, you can get like the pest control there, right? And then they can do everything. It's sometimes it's just fast enough, and I just want, like, it was empty, so I just got diatomaceous earth. That's a little tip for you guys. Get diatomaceous earth and get borax. I know sometimes they use borax as well, and then it comes in this squirt bottle. It's a powder, and I just bombed it myself.
Okay,
right?
so the place was empty.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want like people touching that stuff or whatever, right?
They say it's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a natural thing. So if you go to your Home Depot or your Canadian Tire, things like that, it's just called diatomaceous earth. You take a look at the ingredients. 100% diatomaceous earth, right? It could be ants or cockroaches or whatever. Same ingredients, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you're paying for, that's what you're getting. So just get that, and I just basically just do it everywhere, in the cabinets and everywhere, and then literally they're done in like 3 to 5 days.
Yeah.
But I actually got Orkin or got whatever pest control there.
Yep.
So bang, they're it's good, right? But that's a little tip where if you want, before some people move in, like you can powder a little bit everywhere. So at least if you do get it, they quickly die.
Right. Yeah. It's a pain in the ass.
It is.
Dealing with that kind of stuff, but
it is.
So that was a learning experience for you. You're not renting it to students like that anymore.
It's not.
Like, I mean, I shouldn't really say that. But you got to be a little careful, right?
Yeah. You got to be careful. You have to, it's human rights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's the point where you're cautious.
Yeah.
Right. Like, George, you'll be cautious as well. I'm cautious as well.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, can I see your current place? Right.
Yeah.
You would. Like my first couple few rentals, I went to sign the lease at the tenant's place. Right. I literally just stayed out. Like I say, hey, I'm gonna be. Give me a couple hours. Can I sign the lease at your place? I'm literally outside their door, like ready to shove the lease. Yeah. I want to see their place. Right. And I've done that, right? But you're cautious because you've been bitten once. You're more cautious. So yeah.
Well, the thing that I do now, which like obviously my portfolio is not as big as yours, but I have a property manager fill units for me. But before I sign anything, I always do a 5-minute video call. And I just want to see the person face to face. I want to ask them some questions. And I've had a couple times where the people, like, they don't want to move forward after meeting me. And I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
If we don't align, if you don't like the way I'm speaking and I don't like the way you're speaking to me, then I don't want to move forward. It's actually a great way to screen people.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
This is what I do. This is my screening. Okay. Hey, do you mind if I get your driver's license and your social insurance number? I know I'm not supposed to get your social insurance number, but I think we're in good terms right now, right? So if something goes wrong, if you're not going to be paying, I will have to come after you and garnish your wages and have your social insurance number. Are you okay with that? Right?
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I was like, I do that to the parents specifically.
Oh yeah.
So I'll go to the guarantor. I know you trust like little Janie, or she's amazing, little Janie Smith, or Jane Wong, or whatever. It's like, I know you trust her, right? Now you're gonna co-sign for her, right? Now you trust her because I have your employment, I have your bank information, I have your social insurance number, things like that, right? So if she doesn't pay, you're on the hook for it. You're good with that, right? Good. I have a thumbs up. Yeah, she's good. Great.
So this is over a phone call that you're doing this?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just over the phone call. It's the first call. I say, like, it was literally a parent, right? And they're good with that. Sometimes they're good. It's like, do you mind if I get your work information, things like that? Oh, you're a pharmacist and whatever. It's like, oh, okay, that's great. So if you trust your daughter, then I trust you.
Yeah.
And I trust her.
Yeah.
Right? I trust her because I trust you, right?
Right.
Because you're the one that's co-signing, right? So when you say that, I'm going to get your information and I will garnish your wages in a way that once you get judgment, I go to the small claims court and then I have the work information, I get that documentation, and I've done this only 2 or 3 times, but I go to the workplace, I give it to the HR, the executive, right? And I basically say, here you go.
So that's a small claims court matter, because I've never actually garnished anyone's wages. Isn't that part of the LTB process?
No, it's not. So once you get judgment on
Yeah.
the LTB, you take that form, you go to the small claims, right? And then you can garnish that wages.
So do you have to wait to get a hearing, like a small claims hearing, or it's processed right away?
It's processed right away. I didn't go to a hearing or anything like that.
Okay,
I went to the other counter. This is in Kitchener. So it's downtown Kitchener. I went right to the other counter, and then I got that form, and I literally went to his workplace. Okay, this is Ayers Craft, the last one I did. This is a while ago, but probably about 12 years ago. Excuse me. And his person name was last name was Medeiros.
Don't say.
You don't have to cut it off. Last name is Medeiros.
Okay.
But honestly, it's like when I saw Medeiros, I go, hey, like I had my shades on. I was in his office. He didn't know it was me, right? Because I basically said I need to see the HR executive, right? And then one of the VPs came in and said, is this, because I basically said I have a legal documentation for Medeiros. And then he goes, really? Okay. Is it something serious? And people say I look like a cop because my haircut, right? And I had these shades on, like had my leather jacket, and they thought like he was under arrest or something.
Yeah.
And then he was scared, the executive, right? Like, why would you be scared of me, George? I'm so short. Right? I'm like a barely 5'2", right? On a good day. And then Steve walks in and I go, hey, you've been served. I'm going to garnish your wages. And I stuffed it to him on his chest.
He was the guarantor?
No, he was the guy.
Oh, the guy.
Because he had the job. He wasn't the guarantor.
Yeah, okay.
He was a tenant, right?
Yeah.
And it was like he only stiffed me for $2,700, right?
Oh, okay.
So it was like only $2,700, but I was like, I'm gonna go after you, right?
Yeah.
And
now this guy is at work. Everybody knows he did something.
Well, he didn't know. Everybody knew, but the secretary knew and the executive knew. The
Yeah.
VP knew, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I stuck it to his to his chest, right? He wouldn't pick it up, right? He wouldn't put his hand out, right? So I stuck it to him and dropped it, right? And I was like, I'm gonna get my money,
Yeah.
right? I still got my money,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's 30% of his of his paycheck.
Right.
So I didn't say his name. His name is Medeiros. But anyways, like people, like you have to do this, right?
Yeah.
I'm going through other crap like right now I have a hearing shortly because I threw out this tenant's stuff, right? Like literally 3 times I changed the locks, and I was saying that this guy was wanted by the police. This is by St. Catherine's building. I sold the building, and this guy wanted he was wanted by the police for like it's either his partners or something, is some drug bust, and then he shot at the cops. It's on a newspaper, and he went undercover, right? And I was like, I'm trying to get the police to help me. LTB won't help me because I still have to go through the eviction process.
Yeah.
Little Rose Baker at the end of the hallway is like, she goes, Kasey, I'm so scared. Like these people look like thugs. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, Rose, but I can't do anything, right? I'm afraid to get out of my unit. I'm afraid they might push me. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like little Rose Baker's like, are you serious? So I felt sorry for her. And George, I kid you not, they left. I changed the locks and I threw everything out, right? I changed their locks 3 times. They scaled the building. It's a 2.5-story walk up. They scaled the building. I have them on camera. I took pictures of them. They look like they don't look like your average like teenager / 20-year, like they look like thugs.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not scared. Like I've been choked, headlocked once.
Yeah.
Right. I've been threatened 2 times. Right. I guess I'm not afraid of dying. Right.
Have you been called names?
Oh yeah, all the time. You chink.
Yeah.
Like you you little, like, these F words or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
I've been called a rapist for no reason.
for rapist?
Yeah, just like I'm just called a rapist by like a woman that lives
Really?
that's being evicted by like she tries to I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get into that.
No, these are fun stories. Like I had a tenant at my Linwood property. She was like naked, like walking the hallways. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want you don't want that to happen.
No. Yeah.
Right? I'm like, and I was like, look up, like I seen people like without their clothes on. I was like, oh my goodness, like please put it back.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to get involved in these things, right? I had one person that tried to choke me. I had to charge him. Two people that said that I'm going to kill you. One person was Brad Progue. I'll say the name. He actually got killed.
Oh.
It was a tenant. I think it was execution style. Like he was a tenant, and this is in Progue. Like he's actually he died by stealing drugs or something from these drug dealers or whatever.
Yeah.
So you run in, like if you guys want to go into property management, that's what you have to deal with.
Yeah.
So I've dealt with a person just headlocking me. I had like I'm going through this right now, end of October. I have a hearing with this guy. He's a drug dealer that I threw all this stuff out. He's trying to sue me for $35,000. There's
small claims, right?
Yeah, small claims. No, with the LTB.
Oh, with
right?
the LTB.
It's with the LTB.
Oh, okay.
But he's already moved out. There's other issues, like there's other stuff as well. I already basically sold the building, and like how's he going to come after me? I'm actually the GP. I'm actually hired under our business, so it's not like I have any assets, right? So it's going to be hard. I don't know what's going to happen, but how is he going to come after me personally, right? I don't know, because I'm actually not listed as the owner.
Right.
But people make it sound like it's so it's so great being an owner. It is, right? Like financially, you can earn money, but sometimes you can lose money, and you get into all this stuff, right? Into gangs, people choking, people, whatever, for whatever reason they don't pay. So I have people think that it never happens. But you get into situations where people don't pay and tenants don't pay, and you're going after them for thousands of dollars, right? Welcome to property management. Welcome to owning real estate.
Yeah, that's very common.
Yeah.
Like almost anybody who's a landlord at any point has had to deal with being owed thousands of dollars if you're in Ontario, right?
Yeah.
It's normal. I mean, it's not all fun and games, but there's a huge upside to it. Like your lifestyle, you wouldn't be able to live this way if it weren't for the properties that you own, right? We talked a lot about that on the last episode, so you guys can check that out if you're interested in learning about how Kasey pays for his kids' schools, private schools. But before we finish things off, is there like any final thoughts, anything you want to touch on?
Really, if you're get everything in line first. Like it's never going to be perfect, right? Getting into real estate and owning property, it is difficult, right? So you newbies out there, you think that, oh yeah, you're going to be driving a Lamborghini in 5 years. No, it's probably not. You're still going to be driving an old minivan like me, right? Driving your kids to school.
Yeah.
But over time, wealth will happen. You just have to be patient.
Right? How long do you think it took for you to feel that way? Like, like you said, 5 years, you don't really feel too much, but at what point do you look at and say, wow, like real estate has really changed my life?
After 10 years. After
10 years? Yeah.
After 10 years. So when you look at a deal, like honestly, if you look at, like, let's say the Grant Cardone's, right? If you take a look at his sort of his offer sheet, he's making money right off the bat from his investors. So he has he has acquisition fees and closing fees and so on and so forth. He's making fees out of like the yin yang. Like he's making money before you make money. But in reality, if you're like an honest operator, you're not going to be making money till like probably at least 5 years.
Yep.
And at 10 years, then you start seeing the fruits of your labor.
Even with the downturn, like what we've experienced.
Yeah. Like you just wait 5 or 10 years. And honestly, when it comes down to it, forget about these small, like ADUs, like your garden suites and all that. It doesn't even make sense. We can go through the numbers next time, but like I want to go through numbers, but like next time we can go through specific numbers, right? I'd rather just buy existing, right? If you're doing all these renovations, and I know you had another guest like 300 or 400,000, buy existing because they're still selling at 200.
For ADUs, you're saying 300,000-400,000.
Yeah, or even like a 12-plex or something like that. If you're renovating it and doing all these upgrades and you're spending 300 like after your repair costs.
Yeah.
If your units if your unit price is like 300, 400,000 and your rent is only $2,200, $2,400, that doesn't make sense. Buy existing and just like buy something that doesn't need that much reno.
Yeah.
Right. And just cash flow with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing that I've been trying to do a lot of. Like I've talked about this before, but I had 4 townhomes that I converted to duplexes. It's obviously a very small project, but I kind of had to do the duplex conversions.
Yep.
And like the original plans, the designer had me reconfigure the whole house, and it was going to be like a $200,000 project, right?
Yeah.
I ended up doing it for like 60,000.
Good.
Doing just bare minimum.
Good.
Keeping all the walls intact, just working around it, and I don't care if it's not the prettiest unit. It's still renting, and it's not going to make that much of a difference. So, I mean that's
So going back to that, George, is like make sure that what you're doing is that it makes sense, like in the market. Just because you're buying something at a low value, okay, let's say the market right now is 200,000 per unit, and you're renting anywhere from about $1,600 to $1,800. This is in 2024 October-ish. Okay, so you're buying that. But if you buy something with a lot of maintenance and a lot of renovation costs, and you buy it at, let's say, 150 instead of the 200, but you put 150 into it, that's 300,000. You can't compare your 300 with your 200,000, right? So just because you put in all these renos, what are you getting for? Like your rents, your rent is only $100 or $200, like $200 more per month. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Your fundamentals don't make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Unless you plan on keeping this building for like 40 years and you just want to renovate everything so you never have to touch it again. I mean, maybe it makes sense that way, but I think for the most part, not really, right?
Yeah. It still doesn't make sense. Like you buy at the market right now. Like it's say, if it makes sense in 40 years from now, why don't I buy an existing, right, at the market at 200,000, just do minor renovations of $20,000 or $30,000 per unit, and then just rent it out at market?
Well, because that person that's doing the extensive reno is getting a big amount of the money back when they refinance, right?
Yeah, so but the thing is, if I'm buying at 200,000 and I get my rents up, I'm still going to get the same refi.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of the main big operators don't do that.
Right.
Unless they need to, and then they can do maybe an AGI, right? Above guideline increase, right? So you're going to be doing something like that. So you buy a 20-unit building, a 30-unit building. I have to change the balconies. I have to change the boiler system. I'm going to do an AGI and then tack it on to the tenants at 5 or 7% increase for the next 3 years or something like that.
I don't think you could do that.
AGI?
I don't think you can go that high. I think I remember looking into it. So the max allowed increase normal is 2.5% for 2024, right?
No, for an AGI.
No, I'm saying for 2024. I think with an AGI it's like 3%.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure from what I remember because I did talk to a paralegal about it, and he said it's like I think it's capped at 3%.
Is it capped at 3?
I believe so.
Okay, I don't know the last few years.
Yeah,
but when we were looking at like an AGI, we're probably at that time it was a 5% or 7% increase on top of the 2.5 whatever percent.
Nope, I don't think it's like that.
It may have changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys listening or whatever, just look it up.
Yeah.
Right. If you cap the AGI at 2% or something like that, then that's your budget. Right. So my budget is a 2% increase for those existing 20 tenants, and their average rent is $1,500. Multiply 15 by the 20, apply the 2.5, and that's my AGI increase for the next 3 years or 4 years or whatever that is, and that's how much I can spend or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's if they even grant that, right? They might say no.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then you can't overspend.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of operators overspend.
Yeah.
And have to say that it's so easy to overspend.
Right.
Right.
No, that's the common thing that I've heard from really experienced people that have been doing this a long time. Like they don't want the prettiest units. They want they want the numbers to make sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means just doing the bare minimum, like just a quick lipstick and renting it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Or even just cash for keys and then just turning it over, leaving it the way it is sometimes. Yeah. So, but if anyone's interested in learning about your projects, they can reach out to you. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, probably just on our website, just to reach out on it. Just reach out. We're not actively seeking investors right now.
Okay.
But if you're interested, we can always talk.
Sure. Right. Coaching. How's that? Yeah. What's going on with your coaching?
I don't know. Like at the beginning, you're fired for 1 month, 2 months, or whatever. Like these YouTube things, and you're amazing, but you burn and die. Like you honestly, you burn and die so quick.
Yeah.
Right. In the social media, everybody's a new guru. Right? So when it comes down to it, like, am I doing coaching? Yes. Am I? Maybe no. I'm not sure. At the beginning, honestly, there's hundreds of people, like not hundreds, so there's like 20 or 30 people that want to coach him. And then during a downturn, like right now, do they want coaching? Of course not. They don't want it, right? So I'll just leave it out there. If they want to coach, go through George.
Who's the ideal person for you that you'd want to work with?
Somebody that just does multifamily, that wants to do multifamily, and that's it.
20 plus units?
Yeah.
Ideally,
yeah. It's anybody, like we can talk about 5 to 10 units, but it has to be like, that's what we concentrate on, right? And that's something that's our wheelhouse, right? That's where we're good at. If you want to talk about, let's say, single family, we just don't do that anymore. So it wouldn't benefit you if we coach you and then you're asking for that.
Right. Yeah. So somebody who's maybe like just getting started in the 20 unit space, that would be kind of ideal, right? So you can walk them through how to do all that. Okay. And best way to reach you?
Just online. Just look me up.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So we'll include your information, but just go to the website, I guess, and go from there.
Yep.
Okay. So check out the show notes if you want to connect with Kasey. And again, thanks a lot for doing this, for always being on the show and sharing all this knowledge and information.
Thanks for having me, George.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Your support is truly appreciated. And if you can share this with a friend or family member that might benefit from the information, remember, our goal is to motivate and inspire others to take action and to build wealth and to become well off. Enjoy the rest of your day.